Okay, and we are back. You're watching the Next News Network on X, Trump Daily Post, Next News, as well as on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, and Facebook. Getting everything squared away here. We got a lot of news we're going to cover tonight. First, we're going to kick off with our White House rundown, as well as we've got news on what just happened in Italy with Marco Rubio. We got the latest out of Iran. President Trump making some rare remarks on Sharia law. We've got that. Also, there is a district attorney who wants to blow up President Trump's ballroom. We've got his remarks. Also, Facebook facing some heat today, having to write a big check. And Hakeem Jeffries just got exposed. He flew out to Maryland, and President Trump scoring a big win regardless. And, of course, our White House rundown. So let's get into it, Brian, right now. President Trump signed a national emergency order today, ripping foreign-built equipment out of America's power grid, and he signed a second order aimed straight at the price of ground beef. I'm Gary Franchi, Next News Network Chief White House correspondent with the last 24 hours out of this White House, brought to you alongside our streaming partner, Trump Daily Post. We've got the grid emergency, the beef proclamation, a solemn Abbey Gate proclamation on the 5th anniversary, and the RNC's first ever midterm convention now locked for Dallas, and here is the day as it happened. According to the daily guidance, the president started with executive time at 8, took his intelligence briefing at 11, and moved into signing time in the Oval Office at 2. A policy meeting at 3, and a print interview at 4. Pool call time was 9 a.m. this morning, closed press across the board. And from today's pool, the president went live at 9 on the Glenn Beck program. He knocked down talk of a non-public emergency around CIA Director Ratcliffe's trip to Moscow, calling the visit semi-routine and tying it to the push to end the Ukraine-Russia war. And Iran's new Ayatollah, he said the man was seriously wounded down the left side of his body, arm, and leg. Michael Scherer of The Atlantic called a lunch lid until 1 p.m. Scherer filed again at 6:03 with the travel and photo lid. U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer walked past reporters outside around 4:30 and said nothing, which fits a week where this administration is telling Canada the free ride is over. Now, the paper the president actually signed, the emergency order, it bars the purchase, import, and installation of foreign bulk power equipment that carries sabotage, cyber, or remote access risk. Transformers, generators, inverters, battery storage, industrial controls, the software behind them. The Energy Secretary can order existing gear isolated, replaced, or pulled out, with AI pushing electricity consumption higher every month. Hostile governments do not get a switch inside our grid. And the second proclamation, it temporarily expands the in-quota quantity of lean beef trimmings by 300 metric tons over 90 days, 3 tranches of 100,000 starting September 1st, limited to trimmings mixed with American beef, with exporters committing a roughly 25% discount. Short-term relief at the meat counter while the domestic herd rebuilds. Ranchers have objected, and on the 5th anniversary of Abbey Gate, the president honored the 13 Americans that were killed in Kabul, with flags still at half-staff nationwide for Dolly Parton through September 1st. The White House also pushed out 14 recent wins. The Supreme Court cleared a mail-in voting executive order to take effect before the midterms. ICE logged nearly 50,000 arrests in July, the highest month of the second term, plus 1,000-plus arrests around Washington, D.C. Fentanyl deaths fell 22% from 2024 to 2025, and business activity is growing at its fastest clip since 2022. So a grid lockdown, a grocery price attacked head-on, and 13 heroes named out loud. That's the day at the White House. Now let's get into the stories the rest of the country is talking about and welcome you to the program. I'm Gary Franchi. I'm your chief White House correspondent. I see that we have Karen and Jeremy and Lynn and Robert all lining up in the chat. And we are streaming, of course, across all platforms, Facebook, Twitch, X at Trump Daily Posts, and on Next News, as well as on Rumble and YouTube in two formats on YouTube. You can pick if you'd like to watch on the vertical format or if you'd like to watch on the horizontal format, whatever you prefer. Okay, so we're going to get into our first story. We got to find out what happened with Marco Rubio, the Italian servers that they have found, and then we're going to get into the latest in Iran. So let's get into that right now. An Italian server collective is now a specially designated global terrorist. Marco Rubio froze the accounts today. That's the encrypted plumbing the American Antifa cells were running on. 10 years they told you Antifa was an idea, and now listen to what State's memo says about Hamas. We're talking about a 72-year-old woman burned over 80% of her body in her own home in Greece. Firebombed, dead, because her daughter dared to run for office. Rubio said that out loud on camera, and then he named Berlin. 5 days of blackout, the longest since World War II. An 83-year-old woman dead in the freezing cold. That's the future being organized on these servers. I'm going to roll Rubio's full clip, and I'm going to read you the line from the State Department memo telling a far-left media group straight to Hamas, Hezbollah, and the IRGC. Now, Rubio froze those assets in an afternoon, and that shows just how fast the value of things can move when Washington finally acts. And here's the thing that nobody is pricing in yet. We've got midterm elections coming up, control of Congress on the line, and markets hate uncertainty. Uncertainty breeds volatility. Between now and November, it could be the most volatile stretch for the stock market and the economy we've seen in years. Now, here's the good news. There is a hedge, and it's physical gold and silver. Noble Gold Investments has spent over a decade helping everyday Americans protect their wealth with precious metals. Simple, easy, and safe. Go to nextnewsgold.com or call 877-646-5347. When you call them, mention my name, and for America's 250th, they'll add a 10-ounce silver bar. You can see it on your screen when you open a new qualified account. Don't let Election Day arrive without a plan. Now back to the sanctions list. Now, Jane's Revenge used the same infrastructure to claim credit for firebombings and beg for copycats. Same servers, same collective. Now it's a specially designated global terrorist. Rubio pulled that thread today, and the tweets that are flooding in are calling it exactly what it is. Marco Rubio here, stunning the world by sanctioning a swath of far-left terror and Antifa networks. Autistici Inventati is facing FAFO. Let's check in with the State Department and Marco Rubio now.
You came here. You are here because 2 weeks ago, a 72-year-old woman was burned on over 80% of her body in her own home in Greece, and she died, executed by a firebomb because her daughter dared to stand for office. You are here today because for 5 days this winter, the lights went out in Berlin, the longest blackout in the city since the Second World War, sparked by an attack that left tens of thousands of households without power in the freezing cold and left an 83-year-old woman dead. You are here and you came because a month after that Berlin blackout, a French 23-year-old succumbed to traumatic brain injuries, beaten to death on the streets of Lyon by a group of far-left militant thugs. You are here because your political leaders are being attacked and stabbed and shot in your streets, because your businesses have been bombed, because your railways have been sabotaged, because your police officers have been beaten and burned. You are here because this is real, and it is getting worse, and it can no longer be denied, and it can no longer be ignored, because it is time to crush this evil forever. The simple fact is none of this that I've just described is new. Far-left political terrorism is not a recent-day modern novelty. It is not a fiction manufactured by conservative politicians. For most of the modern era, it was in fact the dominant form of political violence. Every one of our friends here from the nations of the Western Hemisphere, remember?
Constitution X calls it a declaration of war and lays out what the sanction actually does to Autistici Inventati's encrypted server network. The gloves are off, they write. Rubio dropping a nuclear bomb on far-left terror networks. The entire Antifa ecosystem is about to feel the FAFO of a lifetime. Today, the United States officially sanctioned a swath of transnational far-left terrorist networks, including the shadowy Italian tech collective. This group has been the secret digital backbone for the most violent Antifa cells operating in America and across the West. He didn't hold back. There would be no refuge for violent extremists who wage war on our civilization.
You came here. You are here because...
So how does the deplatforming crowd handle it when the tables are turned? Rubio sanctions. Here's an exchange that just came in from RT Visual.
The deplatforming didn't work.
But here's the question. Here's a question.
Hey, don't touch me again, man. I'm asking you not to touch me.
Well, sure, I'll just...
that was Alex back in the day. So we have this. Persian Phoenix says the media won't put a single camera on it. Do you see the powerful gatherings? Iranians are fed up after half a century, but the left-wing media won't show you this. If they were Palestinians supporting Hamas, hundreds of news networks would cover them. Instead, Iranians fighting for a peaceful terrorism are free. This is Toronto, February 14th. But back to the designation, and here is the part Fox News obtained. The State Department memo ties the Italian collective to Rose City Antifa, Jane's Revenge, and the information flowing to Hamas and Hezbollah. The new memo has revealed the ties between U.S. Antifa groups and Islamic terror organizations overseas. They have now designated the group a terrorist organization, specially designated global terrorists. Let's see, this is a pretty long post. Not going to read the whole thing here. So Rubio stating this. Okay, let me just pull this up on a vertical slide so you can actually see it. Far-left terrorism poses a profound threat to the United States and the broader West. Today, the United States sanctioned several transnational far-left terrorist networks, including Autistici Inventati, a major far-left tech collective whose services are used by the most active Antifa cells. So there will be no refuge for violent extremists who wage war on our civilization. That is what Marco Rubio wrote down and put a legal designation behind it and froze the accounts. Merrick Garland had 4 years chased praying Catholics and school board moms and never touched these servers once. So name the donors that Rubio froze the plumbing. Now show me who paid the plumber, which American foundations wired money into this ecosystem, and which prosecutors in Portland and Seattle kept dropping charges while ICE agents were getting doxxed. We were right. Every single year they called us paranoid. We were right, and now it's on federal paper. So don't let this be a victory lap. Drop a comment with the name of one prosecutor that you want traced, and share this with a friend who told you Antifa was just a myth. And subscribe so you see the next designation the second it drops, because Rubio started pulling the threads, and I want the whole sweater on the floor. You see, Rubio's memo is the kind of document the gatekeepers will pretend never existed by Thursday. So let's put the real thing in your hand. Text White House to 844-840-4963. We hold credentials inside that building, and what our team pulls out of it hits your phone every night with no algorithm standing between you and it. But reading is only round one. Round two is carrying it. Text Signal to that same number and list to the next news Signal Corps. Take assignments, earn rank, and help us move with the Legacy Press berries. Get in tonight. Okay, moving right along. What's going on with your camera? I know. Gary's a blur. I know. It's just something's wrong with this shot, and I just can't figure out. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We just need to get a new laptop in here so that it's powerful. This is an old laptop that's running this camera, so it just needs an upgrade. And speaking of upgrades, Iran's going to need an upgrade real soon. So let's get into that, shall we, Brian? "22 boats through the Strait of Hormuz in one night, escorted by our Navy." President Trump laid it out and then said the Ayatollah isn't dead. He's wounded down his left side, the arm, the leg, all of it. So stay right here because Pete Hegseth just told the Pentagon press corps strikes are still on the table. 10 million barrels of oil a day moving through a strait Iran mined weeks ago. That's your gas pump, that's your grocery bill. That's the mullahs, what they held as that artery hostage for 47 years, and our Navy just took it back. No invasion, no draft, no 20-year nation-building fantasy. I'm going to play you Pete Hegseth putting the Pentagon on the record about the kinetic strikes, President Trump's own numbers on Iran's Navy and Air Force, and the inflation figure that jumped from 89% to over 300 in just a matter of weeks. Yes, 10 million barrels are moving again because President Trump refused to gamble on hope. And gambling on hope is exactly what most Americans do with their savings. You've got midterm elections coming up, control of Congress on the line, and markets hate uncertainty. Uncertainty breeds volatility. Between now and November could be the most volatile stretch for our stock market and economy we've seen in years. Now here's the good news. Noble Gold Investments has spent over a decade helping everyday Americans protect their wealth with precious metals. Physical gold and silver you can hold to hedge the volatility. Simple, easy, and safe. Go to nextnewsgold.com or call Noble Gold at the number on the screen, 877-646-5347. And for America's 250th birthday, mention my name and get a free 10-ounce silver bar when you open a new qualified account. Don't let Election Day arrive without a plan. The mullahs didn't have one either. President Trump said that their Navy is totally gone. Their Air Force is totally gone. He said it flat, right to the cameras, like a man reading a scoreboard, and then he added that many of their soldiers aren't even getting paid. And watch how casually he drops it. That's a regime that can't even make its own payroll. Here's first Hegseth, Secretary of War, says the strikes on Iran are still possible. Economic pressure we know hurts them the most, but by no means are we foreclosing using kinetic strikes anywhere in the Strait of Hormuz or around Iran.
Economic pressure we know hurts them the most right now, but by no means are we foreclosing using kinetic strikes anywhere in the Strait of Hormuz or
anywhere in the Strait of Hormuz. Economic pressure may hurt. It also hurts America the least. The strikes inflicted tons of damage on the regime, but they also depleted America's munitions to dangerous levels. That is according to Mario Nafal. So Hegseth keeps the kinetic option on the table. President Trump goes further at the podium, saying the Ayatollah isn't dead. He's seriously wounded on the entire left side of his body. Here is President Trump's appearance with Glenn Beck today.
That the Ayatollah is dead. Is the Ayatollah dead? And is there a way to win this war? I mean, really win this war and have them unconditionally surrender without the people rising up who don't have any guns. So is he dead? And where are we on the war?
I don't think he's dead. He was very seriously wounded. The left side of his body, the arm, the leg, the whole thing. He was very seriously wounded, but I don't think he's dead. And if he is, they're putting on a pretty good show because they talk about, going back to talk to him all the time, to get a final blessing on things. But, you make a deal with them, it's like it's not the most honorable group, I will tell you that. And, we have the Strait open. We took out 22 boats last night. We have people coming in. The blockade, our Navy has been unbelievable. Our military has been unbelievable, the combination. And our financial strength, we built it up so much like you wouldn't believe in a year and a half. our financial strength is unbelievable.
That was the first take on it. Here's the full answer, including President Trump saying we took out 22 boats.
I don't think he's dead. He was very seriously wounded. The left side of his body, the arm, the leg, the whole thing. He was very seriously wounded, but I don't think he's dead. And if he is, they're putting on a pretty good show because they talk about, going back to talk to him all the time, to get a... I don't think he's dead. The combination, and our financial strength, we built it up so much like you wouldn't believe in a year and a half. Our financial strength is unbelievable. And those things are going toward a very big victory. We had the victory in Venezuela, and we're going to have a big victory here very soon.
The blockade, the boats, the Navy, President Trump, on the war itself, the mines cleared out and 10 million barrels moving through Hormuz.
The war prior to what we're doing with Iran, which I think will be ending fairly soon, you could really say, because the strait is open. We take a lot of ships through the strait now. We're taking them in. The mines are gone. You probably saw that. We put it out yesterday, all the mines. We got rid of the mines. But the strait, it's functioning. It's a functioning strait. Yes, every once in a while there'll be a drone or a rocket or something shot, but it is a very functioning strait. A lot of oil is pouring out. 10 million gallons, 10 million barrels. Yeah.
10 million barrels. Functioning strait, oil pouring out. And on the streets of Iran, President Trump says their Navy is gone, Air Force gone, inflation running at 300%.
1,000 people, they leave. No, I don't care who you are, they leave.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to protest when you have people that are willing to shoot you and kill you. And that's why they're not protesting. And there is a chance because they have become very much weakened. Their Navy is, as you know, totally gone. Their Air Force is totally gone. Their soldiers, many of their soldiers aren't being paid. They have 300, I think 300, I heard 90%. I think it's 300% inflation.
So they talk about going back to talk to him all the time to get final blessings on things. President Trump just told you the Islamic Republic is wheeling a half-paralyzed old man out for signatures to keep the story alive. 47 years of hostages, IEDs, and dead Americans, and it ends with a puppet show and a currency worth confetti. So don't let the same crowd that flew pallets of cash to Tehran write the exit ramp now. That's my only worry tonight. President Trump found the third door. Break the Navy, break the Air Force, take the sea lanes, choke the money. The swamp is going to call that reckless right up until they try to negotiate this regime back to life at the 1 yard line. He said it himself, it's hard to protest when the people in charge will shoot you. They're still executing the kids they arrested in the spring, so finish it. Stand with the people when the opening finally comes. And tell me below, do we finish it or do we let Washington blink? And share this with somebody who still thinks that he was going to start World War III. So we're talking about 22 ships in one night, and you'll notice how few outlets actually led with it. So get the file straight from the source. Text White House to 844-840-4963 because Next News Network holds credentials inside that building where our people pull out of those halls, hits your phone nightly, whether YouTube likes it or not. Now, reading is round one. Some of you want a post to stand at. You want to take action. Simply text signal to that same number on the screen and enlist in the Next News Signal Corps. Real missions, real ranks, a command center, and a network the legacy press can't unplug. So get in tonight. All right, moving right along. President Trump discussing those 22 ships. But now we're going to move into what was mentioned with respect to his what he said about Sharia law. Interesting. We don't quite often hear President Trump discussing that. And then we're going to go into those remarks from a DA who says he wants to blow up President Trump's White House ballroom with dynamite. Yeah, and he wants a memento for his desk. We're also going to talk about the Facebook The big Facebook settlement today, Jeffries as well. So we're going to get into the rest. I would absolutely prohibit the Sharia law thing. That's what President Trump said on camera with Glenn Beck. And then he said the part nobody in Washington will touch. It's happening in this country a little bit. 3 days ago, a Dearborn pastor asked that same question and got silenced. Tonight, he got an answer from the president. Quote, you go to London, you go to Paris, it's almost like a second way of life. Ridiculous. That's President Trump naming what Europe can't undo now. One country, one law. The second you let a parallel legal order grow inside your borders, you don't have a country, you've got territory. And I want you to hold on to that word that he used, pockets. Pockets of it here. And coming up, I'm going to roll the exact clip where he says, when we see it, we take it out. And then Laura Loomer's post that turns that promise into a bill that Rubio and Bissent have to answer for. President Trump's talking about one system, one set of rules. And folks, the same logic applies to your money. Because right now, you've got no idea which rules Washington plays by. After November, we've got midterm elections coming up with control of Congress on the line. And markets hate uncertainty. Uncertainty breeds volatility. And this could be the most volatile stretch for our stock market and economy we've seen in years. Now, here's the good news. Noble Gold Investments has spent over a decade helping everyday Americans protect their wealth with precious metals. Physical gold and silver you can hold to hedge the volatility. Simple, easy, and safe. Go to nextnewsgold.com or call Noble Gold at 877-646-5347. Mention my name and celebrate America's 250th with a free 10-ounce silver bar when you open a new qualified account. Now let's get back to those remarks on Sharia law. Quote, I would know no Sharia law, and you do have pockets of it, as you know. As you know. Did you catch that? He's not informing back. He's assuming everybody watching already knows and has been lying about it. Now, we're going to take a look also what Laura Loomer fired off. So, President Trump, leading report, supports banning Sharia law nationwide. Laura Loomer wants to know why Treasury and State won't touch the Islamic 501c3s funding Hamas at home. She says, how come the State Department and the U.S. Treasury won't go after the Islamic 501c3s in the U.S. that are supporting Hamas and Islamic terrorism? If you're willing to designate Palestine action, why not do the same to groups here in the U.S.? I think we all know why. Loomer says we do know why. Now here's President Trump on camera saying that there are pockets of Sharia in this country already.
Yeah, I would say two things. Number one, on Sharia law, I would absolutely say that's not this country. It's no Sharia law. And you do have pockets of it, as you know. I would say no. And you go to London, you go to Paris, it's almost like a second way of life. It's ridiculous.
He goes further. Watch him say he'd absolutely prohibit it. And then when we see it, we take it out.
On a lot of other people's side, too, because you know, you and I have people that I think we're more based on common sense than we are on ideology. It's all about good politics is all about common sense anyway. But I would absolutely prohibit the Sharia law thing, and it is happening in this country a little bit. And when we see it, we take it out, and you have to take it out. You have one system. We have a great system. Sometimes it's very frustrating, but it's the best.
So Marco Rubio's State Department designated Palestine action in Britain, and the Islamic 501c3s operating in America and zip codes wired into Hamas money still hold their tax exemption. Laura Loomer said, I think we all know why. And I'm not letting that sit as a wink because President Trump just said when we see it, we take it out. And Foggy Bottom hasn't taken out anything on this soil. So where is the domestic list? Secretary Rubio? Where's yours, Secretary Bissent? You found the paperwork for Palestine action across an ocean. Find it for the groups on this side of it. Look, thank God we have a president who will say it out loud instead of hiding behind a press aide. He said he'd sign it. Hold him to it. Somebody in that Republican Congress has to actually write the bill because a soundbite doesn't outlaw anything. Now share this with the people who called you a bigot for noticing and put a name in the comments. One group you think belongs on that list. That pastor in Dearborn we covered last week, he stood up alone and got stonewalled. He's not alone anymore, and neither are you. And yes, that Dearborn pastor waited days for an answer. You shouldn't have to wait for anything. Text White House to 844-840-4963 because Next News Network holds credentials inside that building, and what our team pulls from the halls lands on your phone every night, whether YouTube feels like showing it to you or not. But watching Rubio's inbox is the same as filling it. Text Signal to that same number and listen to the Next News Signal Corps take real missions with real ranks right out of the command center we built and push this where the legacy press won't. Get in tonight, Patriots. All right, moving right along. Lots of hot sound bites from that Glenn Beck interview today. But speaking of hot sound bites, this next one is spicy. And even Blanche, the Attorney General, is responding. So you've got a deputy attorney calling for the detonation of Trump's ballroom, and now the Department of Justice is weighing in. You ready for this? Buckle up. It's going to be a piece of the ballroom after we all blow it up. That's Larry Krasner, Philadelphia's district attorney. He said it Tuesday at a podium on video. He wants the rubble of President Trump's White House as a paperweight. And the next thing out of his mouth involves a dynamite plunger with Trump's name on it. Quote, an official ceremony, just so we're clear, Krasner's words on video, at the annual slavery commemoration at the president's house on Independence Mall. He took a memorial to the enslaved and turned it into a demolition pep rally. This is the man who decides whether the carjacker in your neighborhood ever sees a courtroom, and his imagination is parked 140 miles away. So stay with me because I'm going to roll a full clip. The dynamite plunger, that line, the plan to sell the rubble. And then Attorney General Todd Blanche's on-camera answer word for word. Now, Krasner told a crowd exactly what Democrats do the moment they regain control. And folks, they say that about your money too. We've got midterm elections coming up with control of Congress on the line, and markets hate uncertainty. Uncertainty breeds volatility. Between now and November could be the most volatile stretch for stock market and our economy we've seen in years. Now here's the good news. Noble Gold Investments has spent over a decade helping everyday Americans protect their wealth with precious metals. Physical gold and silver that you can hold to hedge that volatility. It's simple, easy, and safe. Go to nextnewsgold.com or call Noble Gold at 877-646-5347. For America's 250th, mention my name and get a free 10-ounce silver bar when you open a new qualified account. Don't let Election Day arrive without a plan because Krasner already made his. So we're talking about 10 to 15 years. That's Krasner's timeline once Democrats, in his word, regain control. A prosecutor tied the destruction of a federal building to an election result. Now take a look at what Patriots Online caught the second that he said it. Here it is. This is the post that is going viral. The Philly DA Larry Krasner said this.
And I'm going to have a paperweight sitting on my desk. You know what that paperweight's going to be? It's going to be a piece of the ballroom after we all blow it up. That's what it's going to be. In an official ceremony, just so we're clear. In an official ceremony, we're going to blow it up, and we're going to give the taxpayers their money back by selling all the pieces as paperweights, and I will have one on my desk.
Wow. What a jackass. That's what he said. So Attorney General Todd Blanche got asked about that quote on Fox. His answer, the ballroom's being built and Krasner should worry about his own city's crime.
I'm sure you know the Philadelphia District Attorney, Larry Krasner. He was talking about the ballroom, the President Trump's ballroom. In a press conference yesterday, the headline said, Philadelphia District Attorney says, we're going to blow it up when discussing Trump's White House ballroom. Obviously, I hope he was speaking metaphorically. When do you think that this will get resolved so that the ballroom can be built?
Well, the ballroom is being built, and it's disgusting that a district attorney in Philadelphia, who, by the way, has a city with its own problems, is so focused on what the president is doing at the White House. And by the way, and so that's something we're continuing to litigate. The ballroom is being built; it's not stopped, and the Supreme Court issued the stay, which allows us to continue to do the work. And this isn't just about a safe, secure place for the president and his family and world leaders. It's also a national security issue, which we've been talking about now for months and months and months. And the fact that you even have a local district attorney, instead of focusing on his own city's problems, his own city's crimes, talk about, quote, blowing it up is reflective of how divisive and unfortunate the Democrats have made this issue. But yes, we're going to continue to build the ballroom. President Trump has promised that to the American people, and we're going to continue to back him up in court to make sure that it can get built.
All right, Mr. Attorney General, thank you for kicking off our 10 a.m. hour. We appreciate it.
So that is the Attorney General Todd Blanche calling it disgusting. The headline he was reading from. Christopher Tremogoli at the Washington Examiner landed also on Fox. He wrote an article about the Philadelphia District Attorney saying we're going to blow it up. And it was cited on Fox, as you can see there. Now, Blue Lives Matter has him at the podium at the president's house site, calling President Trump the embodiment of hate. Let's see here. He says he stood at a podium, talked about blowing up the White House ballroom so he can keep a chunk of it as a paperweight. Soros-backed district attorney Larry Krasner said it on Tuesday at the annual slavery commemoration at the president's house on Independence Mall. He said it's going to be an official ceremony where we blow it up. He also called President Trump a pain in the ass and the embodiment of hate. This is the same Soros-backed DA whose office has spent years treating violent crime in Philadelphia as a social experiment. He's supposed to prosecute people who actually destroy property. Instead, he's daydreaming about an official demolition of a presidential construction project and treating rubble as a trophy. The city's chief law enforcement officer talking like a demolition crew is not a punchline. It's a warning about who's running the courtroom in Pennsylvania's largest city. This guy should have been put behind bars years ago. So a sitting DA talking like a demolition crew, and the money behind him is not secret. Nearly $1.7 million in Soros cash. Soros-backed Philly DA Krasner vowed to blow up the White House. In about 10 to 15 years, I'm going to have the paperweight sitting on my desk. This is the soft-on-crime prosecutor who got nearly $1.7 million in Soros money. Now he's fantasizing about demolishing a presidential building in a public ceremony. This will be the unanimous 2028 Democrat position. So the watchdog makes the point nobody in Philly wants to hear. He was standing at a memorial to the enslaved while shopping for souvenirs. At a ceremony remembering the enslaved at George Washington's presidential house in Philadelphia, the city's DA sketched the next decade. Trump's ballroom will be gone, blown up in an official ceremony. The rubble sold as paperweights, and Larry Krasner gets one for his desk. He writes, yes, that tracks, standing at a memorial to 18th century bondage, excitedly planning 21st century demolition. The prosecutor, who can't hold his own city together, is already shopping for souvenirs from a building that isn't even finished. Can't fix Philadelphia? Fine. Schedule a fireworks show at the White House instead. History isn't a teacher here. It is a gift shop. Real America's Voice caught the part that got cut. Krasner wants President Trump's name on the dynamite plunger.
And I'm going to have a paperweight sitting on my desk. You know what that paperweight's going to be? It's going to be a piece of the ballroom after we all blow it up. That's what it's going to be. In an official ceremony, just so we're clear. In an official ceremony, We're going to blow it up, and we're going to give the taxpayers their money back by selling all the pieces as paperweights, and I will have one on my desk.
He suggested Trump's name could be put on the dynamite plunger. How do you like that? Linda Favilla says it plain this should end his career. He said the Democrats were gaining, they're going to demolish the ballroom. The rhetoric is escalating. This should end his political career, and he should be put behind bars. But Democrats are above the law. Let's get his take.
This is a Soros-backed attorney in Philly.
You know what that
Listen up.
It's going to be? It's going to be a piece of the ballroom after we all blow it up. That's what it's going to be.
He ain't done. He ain't done. Wait for it.
In an official ceremony, just so we're clear. In an official ceremony, we're going to blow it up, and we're going to give
Leftists and
the
violence,
money
hand in
back
hand.
by selling all the pieces as paperweights, and I will have one on my desk.
One more angle, same quote. Cyrus notes Krasner played it off as a joke. Says Trump's future White House will be joke. Okay, let's see if there's more.
And I'm going to have a paperweight sitting on my desk. You know what that paperweight's going to be? It's going to be a piece of the ballroom after we all blow it up. That's what it's going to be. In an official ceremony, just so we're clear. In an official ceremony, we're going to blow it up, and we're going to give the taxpayers their money back by selling all the pieces as paperweights, and I will have one on my desk.
So Todd Blanche, he didn't blink. It's disgusting that a district attorney in Philadelphia, who, by the way, has a city with its own problems, is so focused on its own, who, by the way, has a city with its own problems, is so focused on what the president is doing at the White House. That's the Attorney General of the United States telling Larry Krasner to go look at his own homicide numbers. So do your job, Larry. Prosecute the carjackers. Nobody in Kensington is waiting on your paperweight. And here's the part that has to sting. A Soros-funded DA who took nearly $1.7 million to get that office. The ballroom's going up right now. The Supreme Court cleared it. The crews are pouring concrete while he workshops punchlines about a dynamite plunger. Every hour he spends dreaming about rubble, President Trump builds another wall that he will never touch. So share this with one person and send it to somebody in Philadelphia who thinks this man is an actual prosecutor. And tell me in the comments whether you buy that was just a joke, because he told me exactly what his part does with him, in power, and I believe him. So Krasner said the quiet part into a live microphone. And you should never have to hope an algorithm shows you a clip like that. Text White House 844-840-4963. Next News Network holds credentials inside that building, where our people pull from those rooms hits your phone nightly, whether or not YouTube feels like distributing this video. Then ask yourself if reading is really enough anymore. Text Signal that same number, enlist in the Next News Signal Corps, take real missions, rank up, and push stories the legacy press pretends never happened. Time to get in tonight, Patriots. Okay, did we just lose the, what is, it says, what is going on here? Is this laptop that bad that it just, we've encountered an error, an internet connection error? What? And this thing is, what? Okay. We lost the camera again. Lovely. Did we lose this camera? No, we still have this camera. All right, let me try this. Try this again here. What is going on here? All right, maybe it'll work. Is it working yet? Okay, it looks like... Okay. All right. Maybe it will hold up. I don't know. Okay. We'll just say a little prayer. And maybe maybe someone will chip in for a new laptop. Okay, speaking of chipping in, I think that Mark Zuckerberg is going to be passing the hat pretty soon. $18 billion. Let's get into that. Adam Mosseri was 1 hour from the witness stand in Oakland when Mark Zuckerberg folded. Up to $18 billion, the largest big tech settlement in history. In the court documents, Meta still says it did nothing wrong. Nothing wrong while writing that check. And wait till you see what they agreed to change. 47 state attorney generals said that Facebook and Instagram were designed to addict children. Designed, not a glitch. And Meta collected data on kids under 13 without their parents knowing. Parents screamed about this for a decade, and the tech press called Zuckerberg a visionary. So here's what I'm putting on your screen in a minute. The actual list of guardrails Meta just accepted for the next 10 years. 2-hour cap, midnight lockout, and a ban on one specific filter that tells you exactly who they were preying on. $12 billion minimum, and Mark Zuckerberg's algorithm spent a decade draining kids at midnight, which got me thinking about what all-night screens drain out of the rest of us. You see, studies show fatigue and slow healing trace back to mitochondria as cellular batteries running down. Red and near-infrared light therapy is one of the most well-researched tools out there because it helps cells produce more energy and reduces cellular-level stress. Health journalist Jonathan Otto walked me through the science, and I started using Red Life myself. 9 clinically studied wavelengths, dual-chip technology, twice the power of standard devices, and built to actually work and support natural repair processes. Go to myredlight.com/NNN. The link is in the description below. Use NNN Rep 25 for individual items and NNN Rep 30 for bundles. 30% off bundles, 25% off individual devices. Stock is limited. Now back to the $18 billion confession. The plastic surgery filters are gone, and that's in the deal. Meta agreed to kill the feature that taught 13-year-old girls to hate their own faces. You don't ban that unless it was working. Now look at what the attorneys generals are posting tonight. Meta reaching an $18 billion settlement over claims brought by 47 U.S. states that its platform harmed children. Meta's massive child safety settlement could change how some teens use social media. Let's check in.
Meta has agreed to a massive billion-dollar settlement with 29 US states over allegations that Facebook and Instagram harmed young users and violated child privacy laws. The company will have to pay up to $18 billion and introduce new protections for teens. So, how would you feel about a curfew on your nighttime scroll? Yes, because the changes include daily usage limits, stronger parental controls, tougher age verification, and nighttime blocks. This is the first time Meta has been forced to change how its platforms work. Supporters are calling it a major victory for child safety, but the big question is, will these changes actually make social media safer for kids?
How about just keep your kids off social media to begin with? Curfews, time limits, age checks. Worldwide News puts the number at 17 billion and brings in tech analyst Larry Magid on what the algorithm actually shuts off.
This is the Worldwide News Network.
I'm Bill Rakoff. Meta agreeing to pay $17 billion and add stronger child safety measures to its Facebook and Instagram platforms. It's part of a landmark legal settlement. Larry Magid is a tech analyst and the CEO of Connect Safely.
Well, it doesn't address every possible harm. This settlement goes a long way towards making Instagram and Facebook safer for teenage users by limiting how much time they can spend online and enabling them to turn off the algorithms that encourage obsessive use.
The deal ends a trial over teen social media addiction, and it settles claims filed by 47 states. If it's approved, the settlement would stop an avalanche of litigation by states against Meta, but the company is still facing lawsuits from individuals and school districts across the U.S. At least 95 people have died in flash flooding and mudslides near the border.
47 states, they signed on. Gays Against Groomers says the AGs deserve credit, but names the platforms that got away clean: YouTube, TikTok, and Snapchat. They write, Meta got caught designing Instagram and Facebook to addict children. Today, those attorney generals made them pay $18 billion, the largest tech settlement in history. Thank you to every AG who refused to look the other way. This is an incredible first step, but it's not the finish line. Kids aren't on Facebook. They're on YouTube, TikTok, and Snapchat, where the algorithm still feeds them inappropriate LGBTQIA plus content, predators, and endless scroll with almost no friction. YouTube and TikTok, Snapchat, it's time for you to match these standards or admit you put profits over children. Congress must also pass the App Store Accountability Act, which requires default protections for every app before a child even downloads it. There can be no real safety for children online until every platform prioritizes the safety of their youngest users, not just the one that finally got sued. So libs of TikTok also breaking the news today. 18 protections include 2-hour daily time limit, turning off access to their apps at night as a default, no notifications. They posted the agreement that Meta published. Our agreement with bipartisan attorneys general, calling on TikTok and YouTube to join us in supporting teens. So Meta is also asking YouTube and TikTok to join the effort. The pressure moves to Congress and the App Store Accountability Act. India Global Review lays out the deal itself. And note this, Meta still says it did nothing wrong. So they have agreed to make changes. The landmark deal includes tighter safeguards, while Meta maintains it did not engage in wrongdoing. What do you know about that? So Meta admits nothing, pays anyway. Claudia Cowan is outside the federal courthouse in Oakland. And here is the timing. Instagram CEO Adam Mosseri was due back on the stand within the hour.
And a major update on Meta's landmark trial. States that filed the lawsuit and Meta agreeing to settle claims that the company's social media platforms harmed children. Welcome to a brand new hour of America's Newsroom. I'm Dana Perino. Bill Hemmer is off, and we have breaking news.
We do. Huge settlement here. I'm Bill Malugin. Good morning to you all. According to court documents, Meta is denying any wrongdoing in this agreement, but this judgment does require some really big-time changes to the social media company, including but not limited to better age verification, usage limits, nighttime access restrictions, and required breaks in usage.
And Claudia Cowan is live outside the courthouse in Oakland, California with more. Hi, Claudia.
Yeah, good morning. A lot of breaking news here in Oakland this morning. You know, court was set to resume in just about an hour with Instagram CEO Adam Mosseri resuming his testimony. Instead, what we expect to happen is for the judge to thank and excuse the jury because the two sides have hammered out a deal here in this landmark federal case. Under the terms of the settlement, over the next 10 years, Meta will have to pay up to $17 billion to the coalition of 29 states that sued the tech giant here in federal court. It will also have to make big changes to how Facebook and Instagram operate for minors and make stronger efforts to flag and remove users under 13. Provided the court approves the deal, California alone will receive up to $2 billion. California Attorney General Rob Bonta saying, quote, "Today we have secured a settlement with Meta that will make social media less dangerous for our kids and make a world of difference for children and their families." He added, quote, "Meta has agreed to make massive transformations that will reduce the risk of harm from its platforms and will do it within months," end quote. The long list of changes include time limits, stopping notifications, a block on the app during critical overnight hours, and bans on beauty features like plastic surgery filters. Bonta says the deal addresses the concerns at the core of the lawsuit and institutes real changes and protections for kids. Now, Meta had calculated that losing this landmark federal trial could cost hundreds of billions of dollars in damages. Instead, Dana and Bill, after just 4 days of testimony, this trial is over at a cost to Meta of $17 billion and big changes on the platform.
Wow. So he never testified. Variety breaks down the guardrails, including mandatory pauses. Meta will be enforcing a 2-hour daily limit on Instagram and Facebook for children as part of its record $17.1 billion settlement with 29 states over social media addiction claims. The productive pauses for children include mandatory pauses after 15 minutes of continuous use and again. 2-hour caps, forced breaks. ABC's Elizabeth Schultz counts 51 attorney generals on this thing. Only 3 states stayed out.
Meta has reached a settlement in a landmark social media trial. 29 states accuse the social media giant of designing its apps to get children addicted and misleading users about their safety. Meta called the claims unsubstantiated and says it's created strong protections for teens. Now a new settlement agreement will require the tech giant to pay at least $12 billion and up to $17 billion over the next 10 years. It also forces Meta to make major changes to its apps, eliminating or changing features the states claim got kids hooked. ABC's Elizabeth Schultz is here with some of the details. Hi, Elizabeth. What do we know so far?
Diane, this is a big moment when we think about how these claims have been brought forward against Meta over the design of its apps, the claims that they were designed to get young users addicted. We have now learned that Meta has reached a settlement with 51 attorneys general. That's 51, a bipartisan coalition. Just 3 states are not included in this. The territories are also included. That will require Meta to pay up to $17 billion over the next 10 years. And that perhaps even more importantly and significantly, when you think about these apps, they will have to make changes to how these apps operate. Now, part of these changes, I'm just going to read through some of the changes in the list here, Diane. A default daily time limit of 2 hours for users under the age of 18. A ban on displaying numbers of likes or reactions to users under age 18. A ban on cosmetic procedure image filters. The option for some users under 18 to have a non-personalized feed. That is significant because that gets at algorithmic changes with these platforms. So what we're looking at here is an agreement that effectively concedes that some of the design features on these apps got young users addicted, and the states had claimed that that contributed to harming the mental health of these young users, and now Meta will be forced to make these changes. We haven't yet heard from Meta on this settlement agreement. Meta had previously said that the claims that these states were making were unsubstantiated, and they pointed to the protections that they've made when it comes to protecting young users on the platform.
So bipartisan, all of it, Mario Fall has the twist buried in the paperwork. $5 billion of the payout only hits if YouTube and TikTok agree to the same rules. So as part of the deal, teens will now be limited. Meta says it did nothing wrong. Plot twist, $5 billion of that payout only lands if YouTube and TikTok agree.
Meta has agreed to settle with the US states over social media harms. So Meta has agreed to maximum payment of $16.68 billion to states as part of this deal. They've reached the settlement to resolve the claims brought by states across the country that the company designed Instagram and Facebook to addict children. You'll know this because this case has been going on for quite a while, to mislead consumers about their safety and the improperly collected personal data of children who used its platforms. That's what court papers, they were the claims. So this deal has been reached during this California federal court trial over claims there were 29 states who brought these claims to court. So it's averted one of the highest profile tests yet of allegations that social media companies harmed young users. So that court case won't go any further because Meta have agreed to pay a maximum of $16.68 billion to those 29 states who brought those claims to court. So there we see Mark Zuckerberg walking to court. This is a massive case, a huge case with huge implications for children throughout the world. And the Meta have settled out of court. We'll get more on this and the implications of this as the afternoon goes on.
Wow. $12 billion floor, $18 billion ceiling, 10 years of court-ordered babysitting, and Mark Zuckerberg's lawyers wrote, denies wrongdoing on the same page. Innocent men don't buy their way off the witness stand 60 minutes before their Instagram chief has to raise his right hand. YouTube, TikTok, and Snapchat match these rules right now or admit out loud they picked profit over kids. Because about $5 billion of Meta's payout only lands if those two sign on, meaning the other predators are still running loose, and your kids aren't even on Facebook anymore. They're on a Chinese-controlled app. So Congress passes the App Store Accountability Act, protections on by default before a kid downloads anything. And not one attorney general goes quiet now that the checks have cleared. So share this with the parents in your life who got called hysterical for a decade. They were right the whole time. And drop a comment and tell me which app you want hit next. This reckoning is just getting started, and I want you with me for the rest of it. So Zuckerberg folded in an Oakland courtroom this morning, and half the country still hasn't heard the number. That's exactly the gap that we close. Text White House to 844-840-4963, and the reports our credentialed team pulls from inside that building hit your phone nightly. No algorithm standing in the doorway. Some of you read that and immediately want a job to do. You want action. So text Signal to that same number and listen to the next new Signal Corps, and you'll get real assignments, real ranks, and a command center. So this reporting never depends on a platform's permission. So jump in tonight, Patriots. Okay. That was the update on the Facebook story. Now we're going to go over to the big win that President Trump scored today, and where Hakeem Jeffries showed up. Oh yeah, they're still worried about those redistricting issues, but they seem to be losing on all fronts. So we've got some good news coming up in this next report, so don't go anywhere, and we will get this story rocked. And speaking of the red light therapy, Jonathan Otto, we have an interview dropping on Sunday. Make sure you keep your eyes open for that. Some eye-opening revelations. It's always a pleasure to have Jonathan on. His work supports this network, and when you support Jonathan's work, you support us. So keep your eyes open for that. Hakeem Jeffries got on a plane and flew to Annapolis and personally lobbied Maryland Democrats to erase the state's only Republican House seat. A judge just struck it down, dead on the table, and that's only half the beating that they took today. The Supreme Court just handed President Trump the other half. So 1 million Marylanders in the 1st District were about to lose their congressman without a single vote being cast, and that's the play, folks. Jeffries can't beat that seat, so he tried to delete it. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court lifted the block on President Trump's mail-in ballot order, barcodes on every USPS envelope, DHS and Social Security verified citizen list, ballots to nobody else. I'm going to read you Trump's own words on why mail-in voting is, quote, inherently corrupt, and I'm going to pull up the Massachusetts docket where Judge Talwani just folded. You see, Jeffries just tried to redraw a congressional map because he doesn't like the voters in it. And that's how badly both parties want the House this November. And that fight lands in your account. The midterm elections are coming up. Have control of Congress on the line. Markets hate uncertainty, and uncertainty breeds volatility. This could be the most volatile stretch for stock market and our economy we've seen in years. Now, here is the good news. Noble Gold Investments has spent over a decade helping everyday Americans protect their wealth with precious metals, physical gold and silver you can hold, to hedge the volatility. It's simple, and it's easy, and it's safe. Go Go to nextnewsgold.com or call Noble Gold at the number on the screen, 877-646-5347. And for America's 250th, mention my name and get a 10-ounce silver bar free when you open a new qualified account. Now let's get back to that map. So, Judge Indira Talwani lifted her own nationwide injunction yesterday. Her own. She fought the order, and the Supreme Court made her eat it. And look who she sued. Look who sued. The League of Women Voters versus Trump. Remember that name. Now let's pull up the tweets. Maryland judge shooting down the Democrat attempt to eliminate the state's role. Sole Republican congressional district on the ballot this November. Jeffries personally traveled to Maryland to lobby Democrat state lawmakers to do it.
Hey, Gavin, if you can come in last, we're going to put in this room.
Eric Daugherty has the ruling, and the next target, he says, block Maryland, then let Indiana redraw. Judge strikes down Hakeem Jeffries and Democrats' egregious plan to abolish Maryland's only Republican House seat this fall. Another redistricting win. Democrats are sure to keep appealing this, block Maryland, and have Indiana redraw next for MAGA. Now, redistricting is not the only front. The U.S. Supreme Court just sided with President Trump and lifted the block on his mail-in ballot restrictions. Nick Sorter writes that the Supreme Court has sided with Trump, lifting a lower court's order that blocked Trump's mail-in ballot restrictions to go into effect. Trump's order requires each USPS envelope to have a unique barcode with tracking. DHS and SSA create approved voter lists. USPS only sends ballots to that list. Trump is now allowed to move forward with this while the full case is heard. Remember when Trump said this?
You read recently in New Jersey where tremendous numbers of people were found out that they were on the voter rolls totally illegally, and that's all over the country. That's nothing compared to what's going on in California and Minnesota and so many other states. And hopefully there will be no mail-in ballots. Mail-in ballots are inherently corrupt, except for illness, disability, military deployment, or travel. If you're in the military, you're far away, absolutely. If you have to go someplace, absolutely. But mail-in ballots have proven to be a disaster. We're the only country in the world that in this form does them. There's no other country in the world because they're crooked. They pass through too many hands.
So here's what the order does. Social Security, data, citizenship, checks on the rolls, and federal funding on the line for states that refuse. So the Supreme Court siding with Trump, lifting key lower court block on Trump's March executive order, clearing the way for new mail-in voting rules tied to USPS voter rolls and proof of citizenship. A huge win for election integrity. The emergency request has been lifted.
President Trump's executive order on mail-in voting.
This new executive order compels the Department of Homeland Security to use data collected by the Social Security Administration to check the citizenship status of voter rolls in each of the 50 states. The Postal Service would then only send ballots to eligible voters that are on those lists whose citizenship has been proven. States that don't provide their information to the Social Security Administration, the White House says, would run the risk of losing federal funding if they don't participate. This remains also a big concern of his base, and so they're pleased to see him pushing ahead with this. But Democratic lawmakers, even before the president signed the executive order on Tuesday, said they will challenge this in court. Several other liberal organizations as well saying that they will challenge all of this in the courts. Errol.
Yeah, good luck with that. Good luck with that. Judge Indira Talwani got the message. She has lifted her own nationwide injunction, and the USPS rules now take effect. SCOTUS Wire posting that she lifted the injunction against Trump's election executive order allowing the mail-in ballot rules to take effect after the Supreme Court's ruling on Monday. And here is the League of Women Voters of Massachusetts versus Donald Trump in his official capacity as President of the United States and the state of Missouri. So Here's the thing. Jeffries personally traveled to Maryland to lobby Democrat state lawmakers. The minority leader of the United States House flew across state lines to talk legislators into abolishing 1 million Americans' representation. And the judge told him no. He didn't try to win those voters, folks. He tried to make them disappear. Block Maryland at the state Supreme Court because Jeffries is appealing this by morning. He always does. Hold the SCOTUS stay. Let Indiana redraw because I'm done watching our side disarm while Hakeem Jeffries books flights to delete districts. So here's my question for you. Put it in the comments. If your state is fighting a citizenship check on its own voter rolls, what exactly is it hiding? Now share this with somebody who still thinks that both parties play by the same rules. They don't. One side wants voters picking congressmen. The other side wants to pick which congressmen exist. The fight isn't ending tonight, which is exactly why I need you plugged in right now. Jeffries loses in Annapolis, appeals in a week, and the legacy press won't cover round 2, but I will. Text White House to 844-840-4963, and the reports our credential team pull from inside that building hit your phone every night. No algorithm standing in the doorway. But reading this is where it starts, not where it ends. Text Signal to that very same number, and you're enlisted in the next news Signal Corps, real missions, real ranks, a command center that tells you exactly where to push a story so nobody can bury it. It's time for you to get in the fight, folks. All right, that's a wrap tonight, guys. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Between the Headlines on the Next News Network on X, along with our streaming partner at Trump Daily Post, streaming also on Facebook, Twitch, and Rumble, and in 2 formats on YouTube, vertical and horizontal. So I see you guys chatting it up tonight. Great to see everybody here. Did Maxine Waters die off too? Well, they come in 3s, apparently. So, Jane Doe, I see you. I see you loud and clear there. Same with you, Brian. I see it. All right, guys. It's been great having you here, joining us tonight. Maybe we'll get a new laptop at some point and fix this camera problem we're having, but we do our best over here at the Next News Network with what we have. And you guys are the ones that make it possible. So, we'll see you tomorrow night. Thank you for joining us. For the Next News Network, I'm Gary Franchi.